My name is Eva, and I'm a 34-year-old systems analyst living in Denver, Colorado. I've spent most of my adult life climbing the professional ladder, having joined a major tech firm right after college. For the last 12 years, I worked tirelessly, earning certifications, leading complex projects, and putting in the hours to make a name for myself. All of that effort paid off. I was recently promoted to department head, managing a brilliant, motivated team and reporting to a director who genuinely values my input. On paper, my life looked great. But outside of work, it was lonely. I'd had one serious relationship back in college, but since then, my romantic life was non-existent. My friends knew this and tried to help in the only way they knew how, by organizing a dinner party and inviting someone they thought I might connect with. That's how I met Julian. He was 34, like me, with an easy laugh and warm, attentive eyes. He worked in marketing and had a way of making everyone in the room feel like they mattered. We hit it off immediately, same sense of humor, shared interests, and similar life experiences. Before long, we were going out to dinner on our own, then spending weekends together. He confessed his feelings for me after just a few weeks, and honestly, I was already there. When he proposed a year later, I didn't hesitate. After the engagement, I visited his parents in Santa Fe. They greeted me warmly. "Eva, it's wonderful to meet you," his mom said, clasping my hands. "Our Julian is lucky to have found someone like you. She's even prettier in person," his dad chimed in with a grin. I blushed. "You're both very kind." They asked about my job and seemed impressed. "A woman with a solid career is rare and admirable," his mother said. "Just promise me you won't quit your job after the wedding." That surprised me, in a good way. A few of my friends had dealt with the opposite, mothers-in-law pushing them to quit their jobs and become housewives. I was relieved. Grateful, even. After a simple wedding ceremony, Julian moved into my apartment in Denver. Married life started off well. We cooked dinner together, went on weekend hikes, and binge-watched our favorite shows. I was happy. I felt safe. I felt loved. But about 6 months in, things started to shift. Julian grew distant, less affectionate. He stayed out late, claimed he was networking more. His texts became short and clipped. One evening, he walked in with a strange look on his face and said, flatly, "Eva, I've met someone else. I'm moving her in here. I'm divorcing you." I thought I misheard. "What?" "I'm serious," he said, almost casually. "You can go stay with your parents or, I don't know, figure something out. You'll be fine. You've got that job." He said it like he was doing me a favor. Like I should be thankful. "I don't understand what you're saying. I don't need you anymore. You can go be a breadwinner somewhere else, or a housekeeper if that's your thing. My new girlfriend's moving in." I was stunned. Paralyzed. I couldn't believe this was real. Then his parents showed up the next day, acting like nothing was wrong. When I tried to confront them, they laughed. Laughed. "Come on, Eva," his mom chuckled. "Don't be so dramatic. You're strong. You'll land on your feet." "You always seemed too serious for Julian anyway," his father added. "He needs someone more light-hearted." I felt like the world tilted sideways. But in that moment, something inside me snapped into place. I looked around at all three of them, Julian, his smug new girlfriend in the background, his parents sitting in my living room like they owned the place, and I found my voice. "You all need to leave. Now." Julian blinked. "Wait, what?" "This is my home. My name is on the lease. You're not moving anyone in here, and you're not going to disrespect me in my own space." They protested. I didn't care. I called my lawyer. Changed the locks. Filed for divorce. The betrayal hurt. Of course it did. But slowly, I realized it was better this way. I had escaped something shallow, manipulative, and ultimately beneath me. I kept my job, my dignity, and my home. I also learned something invaluable: never let anyone make you feel like you're disposable. Especially not people who were lucky to have had you in their lives at all. A few weeks after the divorce talk disaster had passed and things seemed to calm, at least on the surface, Julian sat me down one evening. We were having dinner, and he put his fork down like he had rehearsed the moment. "Eva, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," he said carefully. "Okay," I replied, already bracing for something ridiculous. "I was thinking, if you don't mind, I'd like us to move in with my parents." I stared at him. "You mean, like, live together? All of us?" "Yeah. They're getting older, and I'm starting to worry about them. I thought it would be a good idea." I tried to keep my face neutral. My own parents were in their early 70s, too, but my younger brother and his wife were already living nearby and looking after them. Julian, being an only child, didn't have that kind of buffer. I could understand his concern. He wanted to be close, to help. Fine. Reasonable. "So, would we be living in their house?" I asked slowly. "Well, sort of," he said. "They don't really have a room for us right now. Every room is being used for something: storage, crafts, whatever. But I was thinking, we could remodel their place. Turn it into a two-family home." "A duplex?" I clarified. "Exactly. It'd be way cheaper than buying a new place. We'd have our own space, they'd have theirs, but we'd still be nearby if they needed anything." I tilted my head, considering it. Julian's parents were kind people, and I didn't mind the idea in theory. If we could actually live separately under one roof, it might even work. And sure, it'd save money. "You really want to do this?" I asked. "I do," he nodded eagerly. "And I think it could be great for everyone." "Okay," I said, after a moment. "Let's talk about it." He grinned from ear to ear and immediately called his parents to tell them the news. They came over a few days later, thrilled, gushing with gratitude. I smiled and nodded, doing my best to keep my cautious optimism intact. Julian and I started researching contractors and pricing. A two-family renovation wasn't cheap. Quotes came in around $100,000, but compared to buying property in Denver, it wasn't outrageous. Then one night, while we were reviewing a contract draft at the kitchen table, Julian cleared his throat. "Actually, there's one more thing." That tone again. The preamble to a problem. "What is it?" He wouldn't look at me. "I wanted to ask if you could cover the cost of the renovation." I blinked. "The whole thing?" "Yeah." "Why?" He hesitated, then mumbled, "We're in some debt." My stomach dropped. "What kind of debt?" He looked incredibly uncomfortable. "Between my parents and me, about $150,000. I stared at him. "What?" "It wasn't that bad at first," he rushed to explain. "But it grew. They're retired, living off their pensions, and I've been trying to help, but I'm not exactly making six figures." "I had no idea," I said, voice rising. "You never said anything about this, not when we were dating, not when we got married." I didn't want to scare you off. "Julian," I said, trying to stay calm, "you're asking me to pay for a full renovation and cover your family's debt. That's nearly $250,000. Are you hearing yourself?" "I know how it sounds," he said quickly, "but this is important. It's my parents." "And what about me, Julian?" I asked quietly. "Where do I fit in this plan, besides bankrolling it?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. Julian looked at me with pleading eyes. "I know it's a lot. Difficult, even. But Eva, I want to build a life with you. And I want to take care of my mom and dad. It's because I love both, you and them. I know I'm being greedy, and I'm sorry. But if you really love me, please help me. I'll pay you back. Little by little. I promise." I stared at him, torn between reason and emotion. I'd always been careful, always guarded with money, with trust. But in that moment, I saw the man I fell in love with, the warmth in his voice, the sincerity in his words. Love is blind, they say. And maybe they're right. Because even though every part of me screamed caution, I nodded. Okay, I said quietly. I'll pay for it. His face lit up with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. He reached for my hand and shook it as if we were sealing a business deal, which, now that I think about it, was unsettling in its own way. Later that evening, his parents came over. They brought flowers. His mother cried as she apologized and hugged me. We didn't want to burden you, she said. But we're so grateful. I'll never forget this. I'll do my best, I replied, trying to sound reassuring. We worked out the numbers. I had roughly $330,000 in savings from bonuses, stock options, and disciplined budgeting over the years. I agreed to cover that portion up front, $100,000 for the renovation and another $230,000 toward their debt. The remaining $20,000 or so, I planned to pay in monthly installments. We sat down together, Julian, his parents, and me, to go over the repayment process. I explained my plan, that I'd be transferring the remaining payments gradually. His parents immediately deferred the responsibility. Oh no, honey, do it however you feel comfortable, his father said. We're not good with money anyway. I think it's best, Julian chimed in. You should transfer it straight into the loan repayment account. Less chance for errors. His parents nodded in agreement. It made sense, logistically. I didn't want to risk delays or mismanagement, especially with such a large sum. So, I agreed. I would manage the transfers directly. After all, what mattered most was getting them out from under the mountain of debt. Julian's parents looked visibly relieved when we finalized the plan. No more terrifying phone calls from collectors, his dad sighed. You have no idea how much this means to us, his mom said. We'll never be able to thank you enough. You've saved us. You married a good one, she told Julian, her voice trembling with emotion. I smiled politely, but a little voice in my head nagged at me. They were grateful, sure. But something in their tone felt off. Not like family. More like a customer thanking a generous lender. Was that what I had become? Still, I pushed the doubt aside. I told myself I was helping people I cared about. I wanted to be the kind of person who showed up for others. We moved forward with the remodeling, and after a few months, the construction was complete. The house was beautiful, modern, spacious, with a bright open kitchen that I genuinely loved. My in-laws had their own entrance, their own living area. It felt manageable. Respectful of everyone's space. Julian beamed when we moved in. His parents were thrilled. This feels like a dream, his mother said as she stood in her new kitchen. I never thought we'd get here. And in the beginning, I felt good. I cooked more, made use of my shortened commute, and even started taking online business classes in the evenings. Having that little extra time gave me a sense of control, even peace. But that peace didn't last long. Because as the months went by, something began to bother me more and more. Julian wasn't helping. Not with the payments. Not even with the budget. Not once did he ask how things were going financially. Not once did he offer to pick up a side hustle, or even cut back on his own expenses. He just went about his days like nothing had changed, enjoying our new home, smiling at his parents, planning weekend trips he knew we couldn't afford. It gnawed at me. Slowly, quietly. Because while I was draining my savings and rearranging my future, Julian was acting like the money was falling from the sky. And I was starting to wonder if love, for him, had always come with a price tag. Julian never helped with the debt. Not once. When he first told me about it, he promised we'd handle it together. He said he'd pitch in whatever he could from his paycheck, but nearly a year had passed, and he hadn't contributed a single cent. When I brought it up again, gently but firmly, he shrugged. My salary barely covers my own expenses, he said. I wish I could help, Eva. But it's just not possible. I stared at him. Julian, what is your salary? He looked away. Can you at least show me your pay stub? He folded his arms. I don't think that's necessary. I was stunned. We were married, living in a remodeled home that I paid for, and carrying a debt I didn't create, but I wasn't even allowed to know how much he earned. He brushed it off like I was overreacting, and the worst part was, I let it slide. I told myself it wasn't worth the argument. That I could handle it on my own. So I kept working. Long hours, side projects, skipped vacations, canceled plans. For almost a full year, I focused every bit of energy on paying back that enormous debt. Then one evening, my in-laws casually asked how much was left to pay. Well, I said, I've managed to pay back about $30,000 this year. That leaves about $90,000. They both looked shocked. You paid back that much already? That's amazing, Eva, my mother-in-law said, tearing up. If you keep going at that pace, the debt'll be gone in 3 years. That's the plan, I replied with a smile, tired but proud. If I keep pushing myself, we'll get through this. They were crying. Julian said nothing. And despite everything, I felt like maybe, just maybe, it was worth it. If I could give this family some peace, I could live with the sacrifice. But just days later, everything changed. That evening, I'd planned to work late. I let Julian know I'd be home around 9. But things at the office wrapped up early, so I grabbed my bag and headed home, excited to surprise him and cook something simple for dinner. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. I immediately noticed something strange, 2 extra pairs of shoes in the entryway. My in-laws. I figured they had come by for something. Maybe to bring food or chat. As I moved toward the living room, I slowed down, because I could hear their voices. I was just about to call out when I heard my name. You were right to marry that woman, huh, Julian? His dad chuckled. You did great. I couldn't believe you actually landed someone with that kind of money. Julian laughed. Told you. I played it smart. She's got a good job, no baggage. All I had to do was act interested. She even paid off a quarter of our debt already, his mom added. That remodel? Beautiful. You really scored. I froze. Oh, come on, you two spent just as much as I did, Julian replied. I'm the one who had to live with her. You spent more on gambling than either of us, his mom snapped. Horse racing, slot machines, scratch-offs. I hit the jackpot once in a while. Julian shot back. You still owe $150,000. That's not winning, his dad muttered. There was a pause, then laughter. Well, Julian said smugly, in a couple more years, we'll be debt-free and sitting pretty. After that? Who knows? Maybe I move on. She's good now, but I'm not planning on staying forever. I couldn't breathe. I stood frozen in the hallway, hearing my entire marriage reduced to a con job, nothing but manipulation, gambling, and greed. I had been used. Lied to. And worse, laughed at. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to breathe. Then, I slammed the door behind me and called out clearly, I'm home. The living room went silent. Seconds later, they all appeared, smiling as if nothing had happened. Eva. Julian said brightly. You're home early. Good job today, his mother added cheerfully. We were just about to leave. Dinner's ready, Julian said, smiling like everything was fine. Come on, let's all eat together again. His parents echoed the same smile. Yes, Eva, join us. We made your favorite. I sat down at the table, my heart pounding behind my composed face. Their kindness now felt like a performance, something practiced and rehearsed, meant to keep me blind. But I wasn't blind anymore. I had heard the truth. I forced a small smile and nodded. Sure. Let's eat. I played along, complimenting the food, asking about their day. Julian didn't suspect a thing. He even seemed relieved that I was in a good mood. He didn't realize that behind my quiet nods and calm voice, something inside me had already shifted. That night, while Julian was taking a long bath, I went into my room and cried silently, clenching the bedsheets in my fists. I cried harder than I had in years. And then, after the crying passed, something else filled the silence: resolve. I had spent over a year sacrificing everything, my savings, my energy, my future, for people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. That ends now, I thought. From that night forward, I acted quickly and quietly. I met with a lawyer. I began gathering financial records, messages, anything that might be useful later. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. I smiled, cooked dinner, and let them think I was the same generous, naive Eva. 3 months passed. Then one evening, I casually mentioned to Julian over dinner, "I finished paying off your parents' debt." He blinked. "Wait. What?" "That $150,000, it's done." He stared at me, stunned. "But, that was supposed to take 3 years." I smiled. Actually, I had more in savings than I let on. I just didn't feel comfortable spending it all at once. But once the balance got under $100,000, I figured it was time. He looked down at the table and rubbed his face, trying to hide his glee. "Wow. That's amazing. Eva, thank you. My parents are going to be so happy." "I know," I said softly. "Would you like to see the bank book?" I walked into the other room, retrieved it, and handed it over. He flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning the $90,000 lump sum withdrawal. "Wow. It's real," he muttered, trying to hold back a grin. "You really are something else, Eva." "I just wanted what was best for the family," I said, watching him carefully. Later that night, his parents came over. They brought wine and flowers. "You've saved us," his mother cried. "You're like an angel." "I've never met someone so generous," his father added. "Julian's lucky to have you." If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed them. I might have thought I was part of something meaningful. But now I saw them for who they were: opportunists, manipulators, all playing their roles perfectly. And I was done playing mine. A few days later, Julian asked to talk privately. He wore a serious expression, trying to look concerned. "I need to tell you something," he said. "It's important." I nodded, playing my part. "What is it?" "I'm sorry, Eva. But I have to leave you." I tilted my head. "I don't understand." "I met someone else," he said flatly. "She's moving in here. I want a divorce. And you're going to go live with my parents." I stared at him, pretending to be stunned. "Wait, what?" He avoided my gaze. It's time. Things change." I blinked slowly. "So, you're kicking me out of the house I paid to remodel? After I paid your parents' debt?" He flinched, but stayed quiet. I let the silence stretch, then smiled faintly. "I don't really understand what you mean," I said softly. But in truth, I understood perfectly. And so did my lawyer. Julian's face turned sour. "You're really not very understanding, are you?" he snapped. "I don't need you anymore. But if you want to stay here, you can, either as a breadwinner or a housekeeper." I froze, my eyes narrowing. "Oh no," I said quietly. Just then, the front door opened and his parents waltzed in like they owned the place. "Julian, did you finally tell her?" his dad asked with a grin. "Yeah, I told her," he replied smugly. "I wish I could have seen her face," his mother chuckled. "Well, Eva, here's the deal. You're welcome to stay here, but only if you handle the chores for us. Of course, we'll charge you rent." They all laughed. That moment, standing there while they mocked me in my own home, was surreal. It was like they didn't even see me as a person, just a utility. But I stayed calm. "That's enough," I said, my voice quiet but sharp. "All of you need to leave." They blinked. My father-in-law scoffed. "Excuse me? This is our home." I tilted my head. "Have you all forgotten something?" They looked confused, until I said, "I paid for the remodel. And before construction started, I changed the title of this house to my name, sole ownership. So, yes. I do have the right to decide who stays and who goes." Their faces drained of color. It was like watching a curtain fall. "I'm sorry," I continued, "but once the divorce is finalized, you'll all be strangers to me. And strangers don't live in my house." My in-laws were stunned, jaws slack with disbelief. Julian, desperate not to lose the upper hand, snapped, "But you paid off our debt. You're the one losing money if we leave. We're broke, we can't even afford to move." His mother chimed in, "Yeah. At least let us stay until we get back on our feet." I smiled. "You misunderstood something," I said gently. "I didn't pay off the entire $150,000. Julian frowned. "But I saw your bank book, it showed a $90,000 withdrawal. I moved the money between accounts to make it look like I paid it. In reality, the $90,000 debt still exists. I've just been paying large monthly chunks to stall collections. But now, I'm stopping those payments." Their mouths fell open. "I hope you've got a plan," I added. "Because the collectors will be calling you next." Julian looked like he might throw up. "Wait, if they come for me, and I'm hit with alimony, you're going to ruin me." I shrugged. "You're the one who told me you were cheating. You're leaving me for someone else. So yes, I'll be filing for divorce and demanding alimony. And your girlfriend? I'll be filing against her, too." He paled. "Eva, please. Don't do this. If she finds out I don't have the house or money, she'll leave me." "Sounds like a you problem," I said coldly. My in-laws tried one last time. "Eva, please. Don't abandon us. We made a mistake, but we're family." "No," I said. "We were never family. You used me. Lied to me. Laughed at me. And now it's over." I turned away from them. "I've also listed the house for sale." They gasped. The renovated portion is being marketed as a separate duplex. A young family just placed an offer, $200,000. It's a good neighborhood, and people are desperate for multi-generational setups. I faced them one last time. "Through my lawyer, you'll be served for the $60,000 I did pay on your behalf. Julian, you'll receive divorce papers and an alimony demand. And your girlfriend? She'll be hearing from us too." They stood there, frozen, as their fantasy shattered around them. And me? I walked into the other room, poured myself a glass of wine, and opened my laptop. I wasn't their doormat anymore. I was free. In the end, the renovated duplex sold for $200,000. After covering the $60,000 I had paid toward their debt and the $100,000 renovation costs, I was left with a net gain of $40,000. Not bad, considering what I had been through. But that wasn't all. Thanks to the divorce proceedings and my lawyer's relentless attention to detail, I also secured alimony from Julian and compensation from his affair partner. It wasn't just about the money, it was about accountability. And it felt good to watch consequences finally catch up to them. On top of that, I received a $60,000 repayment settlement from my former in-laws. It wasn't voluntary, of course. But under legal pressure, they agreed to pay, likely their last desperate act before slipping back into the debt they tried to offload on me. When I stepped back and looked at the situation, I realized something: I came out ahead. Not just financially, but emotionally. I had been betrayed, used, and lied to, but I didn't break. I fought back. I protected what was mine. And I won. Some people might ask how I even had the money to take those bold steps in the first place. The truth? I'd been saving for years. I had already started learning about investing before this disaster hit. I was careful, disciplined, and committed to building a stable future. So when the time came to act, I had the resources, and the resolve, to do it. Over the past year, my investments grew. I got a raise. My income increased. And so did my confidence. Sure, I lost time. I lost people I thought cared about me. But what I gained was far more valuable: clarity, strength, freedom. Julian and his family? They're back where they started, drowning in their own irresponsibility. And honestly, they deserve every bit of it. They treated me like a lifeline, then tried to cut me loose the moment they thought they were safe. But I'm done being anyone's safety net. From now on, I'm choosing people who truly value me. I'll keep saving, investing, building the kind of life I deserve, one filled with joy, security, and people I can actually trust. If you've made it this far, thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for walking through this journey with me. It wasn't easy to tell. And it definitely wasn't easy to live. But I hope it resonated with you in some way. If you felt even a spark of anger on my behalf, if you found yourself cheering me on when I finally stood up and said, "Enough," I would love to hear it. Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, your experiences, or even just a word of encouragement. Your voice means more than you know. And if you've ever been used, deceived, or taken for granted by someone you loved, I want you to know this: you're not alone, and you can take your power back. I did. Not overnight. Not without pain. But step by step, I reclaimed what was mine, and found myself in the process. So please, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine. Let's build a space where we lift each other up. If there's one lesson I want you to take with you, it's this: protect your peace like it's priceless, because it is. Love is beautiful, but trust should never cost you your dignity or your future. Be generous, yes. Be kind. But don't ever confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice when it isn't mutual. Keep saving. Keep growing. Keep learning. Your future is worth every ounce of effort you give to it. And above all, know your worth. Stand on it. Speak from it. Because no matter what anyone else tries to take from you, they can't steal the strength you build yourself. I'm Eva. And I'm not broken, I'm just getting started.